Our next speaker was the local synod bishop in 2001 when the September 11th terrorist attacks happened. He has written books on parish ministry, immigration issues, and the church's response to the 9/11 attacks. He is now the executive director for the Domestic Mission Unit for the ELCA. Let's give it up for Stephen Bouman.
I never thought in 2018 that my grandchildren going to school wouldn't be safe, and it really pisses me off. "20 miles away from here in Santa Fe, 20 students were killed. And it breaks my heart that you have to march and shout, "Enough is enough," but you make me proud when you do. I never thought in 2018 that I'd be in a room full of 50 children, ages 5 to 12, the age of my grandchildren, running for their lives, crossing our border because their lives were in danger in Central America. When I looked into their innocent eyes, I cried. And I never thought in 2018 that I'd be standing here in front of you, grieving the world you're inheriting. I grieve that racism is as strong as it ever was, and that white nationalism is taking hold, and that we ignore and blame our Muslim neighbors. And I grieve that the constant exploitation of our creation, you still can't get a clean drink of water in Flint, Michigan. And I grieve our divisive politics that make us unable to talk and hear each other, whether in church or school. We can be downright mean. And I confess that sometimes the church is too timid in speaking out. And I am angry that refugees and immigrants are stigmatized, exploited, blamed, and dehumanized. And I am furious. And I am furious that we rip children from their families at the border. Are you? You know, there's a close connection between grief and anger. The root of the word anger means to grieve, to mourn. It is a holy longing to be whole, to be well. Because God uses our grief and anger to move us to action. Because in God's defiant hope, when our hearts are broken, they are broken open. Let me take you to where I learned that truth. September 11th, 2001. I'm sitting in my office. That is my view. The towers surrounded by smoke. The second plane hurtling down the Hudson right past our window, smashing into the second tower. I panicked. I called people that I thought were working down there in the towers. We watched the towers fall. Thousands died. I didn't know until that evening that my own daughter was safe. Within a few days, I was at ground zero. paralyzed by terror. Ground zero was that obscene pile of twisted steel and crushed conflict in which people I knew and loved were buried. I could see their faces. I confess to you, I lost my way. Rescuers noticed this clerical collar. They came up to me. Father, can I tell you what I saw? Father, will you pray with me? Father, where the hell is God? Numb. I just embraced, prayed, but in my soul, I had nothing. Nothing. Most of you weren't born or are too young to remember that terrible day. But it changed everything in my world and in the world we share. But hope cannot be crushed. There were many heroes in the towers, just as there were heroes in the classrooms and hallways in Parkland and Santa Fe. A wheelchair-bound member of one of our congregations remembered that people came back to find her and carry her down many, many flights to safety. One of our firefighter chaplains anointed with oil those brave rescuers who wanted that reminder of their baptism as they rushed up into the towers. Those escaping noticed those glistening foreheads of those brave, brave rescuers as they ran up to their death. And I'm still remembering Jacob's ladder with angels ascending and descending. In their courage, we all realized we are baptized for this moment. In the grim days of recovery, when a body part was found and resurrected from the pit, Ground Zero would gentle down, heads bowed, hats off, another life remembered. Nearby, St. Paul's Chapel was a haven for those who were rescuing, and hope was all around there. Hope in small touches and embraces, sharing chocolate chip cookies, hugging, listening, crying. That awful question, where the hell is God, was being answered in small acts of human kindness and connection. Hope beneath the pain and paralysis of all of our ground zeros, hope hovers. God's hope. And God will use that hope to move our grief and anger into action. And I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen it on the streets of Baton Rouge when, with our presiding bishop and others, we mourned at the site where Alton Sterling was killed, proclaiming Black Lives Matter. And I've seen it in our Amparo ELCA ministry, which means refuge in Spanish, accompanying children and their families here who've come across the border, but also there where they have decided in San Pedro Sula and San Salvador and Guatemala City that it's safer to dismember their families than to live where they are. And we accompany them there and those who've been deported, and also in Mexico. In the ministry of Amparo, we tonight declare our radical hope that we are Lutheran and we are pro-immigrant. And I've seen it. And I've seen it in our hunger ministries, and through global mission. You built a hospital and a peace church in Juba, South Sudan, in the middle of a civil war. You did that. And I've seen it in times of disaster, when Lutheran disaster response accompanies the resilience of local churches in Houston, the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. I know that there are our friends from the Caribbean Synod here tonight. Beloved, we will never forget you until your islands recover. And I see it here tonight. You, signs and sacraments of God's defiant hope for a broken world. If something has broken your heart open, then listen up tonight, because you are going to hear stories of resilient hope and action which will move us to be the church we want to see in the world. Here is what I see as I gaze into ground zero this evening and all the ground zeros of your lives. I see you, beloved, following Jesus who changes everything. I see you, the church, called to radical hope, buried alive already by baptism, being what you were born to be. You are the church. You are the church, strong, prophetic, present, filled with the hope of Christ, which will change everything.